Hello everybody! So here is Lindley again, and I'm here to talk to you about ESFP versus ISFP. So what is the difference between these two types? First of all, we need to point out that we're having to do with the feeler types that have introverted feeling and extroverted sensing in their ego block, meaning in the first two functions. So where do we start? One thing that I also said in the INFP versus ENFP video is that one big difference that we see is in the use of introverted feeling. So if you are, or if you think you are one of these two types and you are unsure which one you are, you can think about how much you use, or how, better said, how you actually use introverted feeling. So, introverted feeling in ISFP is static, whereas in ESFP it is a dynamic function. Now, what I mean with dynamic is that it changes and it's not static as it is in ISFPs. So, introverted feeling in ISFPs means that ISFPs have a strong sense of attraction, repulsion, and when they are attracted to something, they will remain attracted to it. And when they are repelled by something, they will remain repelled by it. It's something that lasts in time and that remains and doesn't change over time. It's something that can be relied on. They're very conservative in what they like and what they don't like, and they're in their personal internal ethics. If an ISFP thinks that that specific thing is wrong, they will always think it is wrong, no matter regardless of the situation, regardless of who the person is. They will always think that that specific rule sticks no matter what. So this is ISFPs. ESFPs, on the other hand, use creative introverted feeling, and with creative introverted feeling we have a type that applies ethics according to how they feel. Basically, they use their internal ethics, they use the way they believe, they use what they believe is right and wrong, but their opinion can change. ESFPs and ENFPs are what I like to call the witches hunt types, which means that to use their creative function, they need to find people to judge. Meaning they need to find some things or some behaviors, some people on which they can apply their introverted feeling. They are types that can change their mind about their attraction and repulsion towards something multiple times a day. They can be attracted to something in the morning and not be attracted to the same thing in the evening. So this is the main difference between ISFP and ESFP seen from the introverted feeling side. Looking at extroverted sensing instead, what we have is ISFPs being artists and the creatives of extroverted sensing, and those that mold image and the external world according to their personal taste. Whereas ESFPs are more conservative and more radical in their use of extroverted sensing. They have very strong willpower, and their sense of reality is constant. They have a view of reality. They see reality for exactly what it is, and they stick to that view. So their extroverted sensing is static. Extrovert sensing dominant have the characteristic of having, like I said, very, very strong willpower, and they have the ability to know if they have stronger willpower than another person, how much willpower another person has, how much use they can make of that willpower that other people have, and stores of energy in people, which makes them able to mobilize other people into doing things. They tend to be highly competitive for this reason. They also have a tendency to believe that they're better than everybody else at everything because they have this great strength behind them that pushes them. And in the case of ESFPs, which is the type we're talking about here, that generates a pattern of extreme impulsiveness. They are the most unpredictable type that we have in the whole MBTI rows. And only INTJs can foresee what an ESFP is about to do because they have zero logic and their actions are fully based on their inner pulsions. They are based on their will, extrovert sensing, what they want, and what they like, introvert feeling, which can change over time, so like I said. And that makes them extremely impulsive and extremely unpredictable as people. They are one of the most funny types that you can see out there, and they can talk their way out of situations even more than any thinker type you can think of. So yeah, that's ESFPs. It's my semi-dual. That's why I find them so cute and so funny. Anyway, that's ESFPs. And ISFPs instead, just to give you an idea, we have more of an artistic type. They are also pushed and pulled by they are also moved, not pushed and pulled, they are moved by their inner pulsions, but these inner pulsions are one-directional, static, and coherent. Why am I talking about coherence about ISFPs, whereas I'm talking about unpredictable behavior in ESFPs? That's also because of the position of introvert intuition. So ISFPs are introvert intuition mobilized. It means that it's their third function. And as their third function, what we can say about them is that they strive for being coherent because introvert intuition is cause and effect. So it's the function of coherence in matters of cause and effect. What leads to what? So for ISFPs, personal growth and inner desire, inner pulsions go in the direction of being coherent with themselves. These types, both ISFPs and ISTPs, have a tendency to always say the same thing and be perceived as even too right and too coherent to be true. And that's because of this inner need for them, for their personal self-esteem, to be coherent. They need to be coherent for their personal self-esteem. If they do something that goes against their principles, or if they happen to do something that sounds like it's going against their principles, they will find a way to justify that with their position. Like, for example, an ISFP that is a poet that says something that looks like it goes against their principles can justify it as a poet's freedom of expression. So that's one thing about ISFPs. Whereas ESFPs are introverted intuition inferior, so they are introverted intuition suggestive. This means that they highly admire very coherent individuals and they highly admire people with a sense of the consequences of what is about to happen or what is going on. And that's because their extreme unpredictability puts them in a position of often finding themselves in situations that they hadn't seen coming. So they need some help in this realm. That's their very weak that's a very weak function in ESFPs, and therefore they have this need to be pointed in the right direction. They do not listen much. They only listen to what they consider an authority. So if they don't consider you an authority, even if you have strong intuition, like you're an II, an INFJ with strong intuition, or an ILI, an I, like an INTJ with strong intuition, if they don't consider you an authority, they're not going to listen to you. So that's a very important thing. They have to trust you and to consider you an authority, and that's due to TE tertiary, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But what I think is important to point out about ESFPs is that to them it is not only important to trust the person in that sense, but you have to consider that with extrovert sensing dominant types, you can provide advice, that you can provide input, you can give ideas, but it's up to them if they're going to accept it or not, because to them it is paramount to do everything they want. So extrovert thinking. So ISFPs are extrovert thinking seeking, whereas ESFPs are extrovert thinking mobilized or tertiary. So let's start from ESFPs so that we can conclude the cycle. And what I was saying is that for ESFPs, it is important to trust the person that is giving them advice or that is giving them suggestions. And that's because of the extrovert thinking. Extrovert thinking means to have a strong sense. Extrovert thinking is a sense of hierarchy. It has in its characteristics. It also has a sense of hierarchy. So for ESFPs are probably one of the types that mostly value hierarchies and powers. We have hierarchies in TE and power dynamics with extrovert sensing dominant. So for them, the power of this authority is extremely important for them to listen. They also look a lot for their own power and position. So extrovert thinking in the tertiary position means that their self-esteem is depending on their knowledge, on what they know. They strive to learn. They strive to learn new things, to be competent in whatever it is that they're interested in. So their personal self-esteem is based on how much they know. And compared to ENFP, they also have the ability to force themselves to learn things, to improve their self-esteem. It's one of the types that probably has one of the highest self-esteems of all for this reason, because with strong extrovert sensing, they can force themselves into learning anything and everything. They have to want it, of course. They have to want it. You can never have an extrovert sensing dominant type do anything unless they want it. So yeah, that's extrovert thinking in the tertiary position. It means that whenever you debate with an ESFP, they are going to propose and to show you their sources, and they're going to base themselves on those sources. And there is no way to have them look at any other source unless one person that they consider an authority is pointing them in another direction and they consider their motivations valid. ISFPs, on the other hand, sorry, I'm having issues with the camera. ISFPs, on the other hand, are instead extrovert thinking, seeking, extrovert thinking inferior. It means that they are very attracted to people that have a strong knowledge, that have a very wide and broad knowledge of things. And they also care a lot about what people think and what people's opinion is. So if they find someone that can point them in the direction of what the majority would do or what the majority would think, that's the moment in which they feel happier. And that's what they're attracted to, what they consider important. So we said ESFPs have an I. Seeking means that they need a direction in terms of cause and effect and what the consequences of their actions are. ISFPs instead are actually thinking inferior, and that means that they look for people with a strong knowledge that will teach them things and that will teach them a lot. So if I have to create a cliche for these two types, I would call the ISFP the knowledge attracted artist, and the ESFP would be the crazed, unpredictable rogue. Probably that's maybe the idea that I have of these two types is more or less that one. One last thing about these two types, just to point out some vulnerabilities, because some people out there consider it very important, and I think that actually it is good to look also to vulnerabilities. A vulnerability of ISFPs is that they fail seeing potential and they fail understanding the potential of people, situations, and everything. So they can try to restrict people around them and force them, not push them rather than force, push them not to do things in which they can actually achieve something because they fail seeing the potential of the person in that direction. Or, on the contrary, they can overestimate the person or overestimate the situation and think that it can go when actually it cannot work. ESFPs instead have as a vulnerability, and that would be that the ISFP vulnerability would be extrovert intuition vulnerable, whereas for ESFPs we have introvert thinking vulnerable. It means that they reject showing and expressing their affiliation. It means that any category that you make them fall into, if it has a possibility to have a negative connotation, they will reject it. And that's why ESFPs never say anything of what they're about to do to anybody, because they are afraid to be questioned in the logic of their actions. That's their problem. They have the issue of introverted logic, their personal logic. They don't understand the importance of this function, and they have difficulties applying it. So they reject affiliations, and they don't tell anyone what they're about to do. And you can imagine the life of their duals if they ever stumble into an ESFP. It's gonna be full of surprises. So, as an INFJ that has found her dual, I can tell the extrovert sensing dominants are extreme fun to be with. And I guess ESFPs for you will be very, very attractive and strong and high fun. So I think I will close this here. I said more or less everything that I had to say about these two types. I hope it helped, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.